I grew up thinking my sister, Samantha, was the golden child. She was the one teachers praised, the one parents complimented, the one who always had a perfect smile in every family photo. Everyone in our neighborhood in Atlanta loved her. She's so responsible. She's always so mature. She's the kind of girl who'll go places. And then there was me, Ava. I was the quiet one. The one who worked hard, paid rent, kept my head down, and tried to live a normal life. I didn't care about being praised. I just cared about being safe. But something was wrong. Samantha had been acting strange for months. She would disappear for hours. She would lock her bedroom door. Her phone would buzz non-stop, even at 3 a.m. She started coming home late, acting tired, and making excuses. At first, I thought she was just stressed. Maybe she was having relationship problems. Maybe work was hard. Maybe she was dealing with something personal. But the truth was far worse. One afternoon, I got a notification from my bank, debit, $3,200, online transfer. I stared at my phone in disbelief. That wasn't possible. I didn't have $3,200 in my account. I barely had enough for rent. My heart started pounding. I opened my bank app and saw multiple transactions, all to the same website. An online gambling site. My stomach dropped. I checked the details. It wasn't just a random transaction. It was my name. My identity. My profile. Someone had used my information to gamble. And the person using it was my sister. I walked into Samantha's room and saw her phone on the bed. Her gambling app was open. And on the screen was my face. My name. My account details. My identity. She had stolen my identity and used it to gamble online. Not just once. Not just a little. Thousands of dollars. Every week. My mind went blank. I couldn't believe it. How could she do this? How could my own sister use me like that? I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit her. I wanted to confront her right then and there. But I didn't. Because I needed proof. I needed a plan. I knew Samantha was smart. She would try to destroy evidence if she knew I was onto her. So I waited. That night, after she fell asleep, I took her phone and started looking through her messages. It was worse than I thought. She had conversations with gambling agents, discussing deposits and wins. She had screenshots of my bank statements. She had a list of accounts she opened under my name. And she wasn't hiding it. She was proud. She typed things like, "No one will ever know it's me. Ava is the perfect cover." My blood boiled. But I kept my calm. I didn't want to be the one who lost control. I wanted to be the one who won. The next day, I went to the bank and filed a fraud report. I told them someone had stolen my identity and used it for online gambling. They froze my account immediately. Samantha noticed right away. She panicked. She tried to delete the app. She tried to erase messages. She tried to act innocent. But it was too late. The bank had already started an investigation. And now Samantha had a problem. Not just with me, with the law. When I confronted her, she didn't look guilty. She looked angry. "You always act like you're better than me," she said. "You always think you're the one who deserves everything." I stared at her. My voice was calm, but my heart was racing. "You stole my identity," I said. You gambled with my life. Samantha's face twisted into a smile. Relax, she said. I'll pay you back. I just need time. I laughed. Time. I said. You stole my life. You used my name like it was yours. You ruined my credit. You ruined my future. She looked shocked. And that's when I knew she finally realized the consequences. She had always believed she was untouchable. But now, she was exposed. And the real story was only just beginning. After I confronted Samantha, she didn't run away or apologize properly. She didn't cry. She didn't even look ashamed. She just stared at me like I was the one who had done something wrong. You're making this into a big deal, Ava, she said, trying to sound calm. It was just gambling. I didn't mean for it to get out of control. I could feel the anger rising inside me, but I forced myself to stay composed. Because I knew something Samantha didn't know, I was going to destroy her. Not physically. Not violently. But I was going to expose her in a way she couldn't escape. The first thing I did was gather more proof. I didn't want to leave any chance for her to twist the story. I went through her phone again, carefully. I recorded every message. I took screenshots of every gambling conversation. I saved every bank transaction that showed my name being used. And I found something even more shocking. She wasn't just gambling with my identity. She had stolen my identity to open multiple online accounts. She had used my name to register for gambling websites, loan apps, credit cards, online shopping platforms. She had used my identity to create a life she could hide behind. I felt sick. But I also felt something else, a sense of power. Because now I had the proof I needed. I started thinking about how to use it. If I reported her to the police immediately, she might try to escape. She might destroy evidence. She might lie and make me look like the villain. So I decided to be patient. I waited. I watched her. I studied her. I noticed how she tried to cover her tracks. She started acting more careful. She started deleting messages. She started spending less time on her phone. But she couldn't hide everything. I saw her go to the bank, trying to open a new account under a different name. I saw her trying to transfer money to a friend's account. She was panicking. She knew something was wrong. And I knew she was starting to realize that I was onto her. That night, I went to my room and made a plan. I knew the best revenge wasn't just exposing her. It was making sure she felt the same fear she put me through. I wanted her to know what it feels like to lose everything. So I created a strategy. I would take the truth to the people who mattered most. My parents. Our relatives. Her friends. Her coworkers. But I wouldn't do it all at once. I would do it slowly. I would let the truth spread like a fire. I would watch her burn. The next morning, I met with my parents. I told them the whole story, calmly, without shouting, without drama. At first, they didn't believe me. They couldn't imagine Samantha doing something so horrible. My mother's face turned pale. My father's eyes were filled with shock. But then I showed them the proof. Screenshots. Bank statements. Messages. The evidence was undeniable. My mother started crying. My father looked at Samantha like he had just seen a stranger. How could you do this to your own sister? He asked, his voice shaking. Samantha tried to explain herself. I was addicted. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm sorry, she said. But my father wasn't listening anymore. He had already seen the truth. He was furious. He turned to me and said, "We will handle this." I nodded. But inside, I felt a cold satisfaction. Because now, my plan was working. Samantha's perfect image was cracking. She was no longer the golden child. She was a liar. A thief. A fraud. And the worst part for her. She knew I was the one who exposed her. She knew she couldn't run away. She knew she couldn't hide. That night, she came to my room again. Her eyes were red. Her face was pale. She whispered, "Ava, please. I can fix this. I can pay you back." I looked at her without emotion. "You already had the chance to fix it," I said. "But you chose to steal my identity instead." Samantha's face twisted with anger. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" she said. "You think you're better than me." I smiled. "I don't think I'm better," I said. "I just know I won't let anyone destroy my life." And that was when I knew, this wasn't just a fight. This was war. And I was ready. After my parents learned the truth, everything changed. Samantha's face in the family changed from perfect daughter to liar in a matter of minutes. It was like watching a mask fall off someone's face. But the worst part was that she wasn't just losing her image. She was losing control. She started acting desperate. She tried to convince my parents to keep it quiet. She tried to promise she would pay back every penny. She tried to manipulate them into believing she was innocent. But my parents had already seen the proof. And they were not going to protect her anymore. My father said something that I will never forget: "We raised you to be honest. Not to use your sister as a cover. You betrayed the family." Samantha didn't say anything. She just stood there, shaking. I could see the fear in her eyes. She knew the truth was out. And now she had no way to control the situation. That was when I realized, if I wanted to destroy her, I needed to make sure the truth reached the people who mattered most. So I started with her closest friends. I called one of them, her best friend, Lily, and asked her to meet me at a coffee shop. Lily looked nervous when she saw me. She sat down and said, "Ava, what's going on? Your sister called me crying. She said you're trying to ruin her." I smiled. "I'm not trying to ruin her," I said. "I'm trying to expose her." Lily's face turned pale. She said, "What do you mean?" I showed her the evidence. The screenshots. The messages. The bank transactions. Lily's eyes widened. She looked like she wanted to run away. "I had no idea," she whispered. And that was when I knew the real damage had begun. Because Lily didn't just believe Samantha. She defended her. She made excuses for her. She lied for her. And now she couldn't do that anymore. When Lily left the coffee shop, she didn't say anything else. But I could see the change in her body language. She looked like she was carrying a heavy burden. The next day, I saw Samantha's friends avoid her in the hallway. They pretended not to know her. They whispered. They laughed. Samantha's face turned red with anger. She tried to approach them, but they ignored her. It was the first time in her life she felt what it was like to be alone. I didn't feel sorry. I felt satisfied. Because this was the revenge I wanted. I wanted her to feel the same isolation she caused me. Then I took the next step. I decided to expose her to her boss. Samantha worked at a marketing firm in downtown Atlanta. She was known as the smart one, the hard worker, the promising employee. So I went to her office. I waited outside the building, watching her enter. She didn't notice me. She was too busy pretending everything was normal. Then I went inside. I asked to speak to her manager. Her manager, Mr. Hayes, was surprised to see me. "What can I do for you?" he asked. I told him everything. I told him about the identity theft, the gambling, the lies. He looked shocked. Then he asked for proof. I handed him the evidence. He didn't say anything. He just stared at the papers. Finally, he said, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. We will investigate this immediately." That was all I needed. Because once the workplace gets involved, there is no turning back. When Samantha got home that evening, she found a message from her boss: "We need to talk. Please come to the office tomorrow." She read it twice. Her face turned pale. She started trembling. She looked at me and said, "You did this?" I nodded. "Yes," I said. "I did." Samantha's eyes filled with tears. But this time, it didn't look like a cry for help. It looked like a cry for mercy. And she didn't deserve mercy. Because she didn't just steal money. She stole my identity. She stole my future. And she stole my trust. From that moment on, Samantha's life began to collapse. And I was the one holding the match. After Samantha's boss called her in, she started to panic. It wasn't just her family that was collapsing around her anymore. Now her job was on the line. And she knew it. The next morning, she left the house earlier than usual. She walked out like she was calm, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She was trying to act normal, but she wasn't fooling anyone. I watched her drive away and felt a strange sense of satisfaction. Because I knew the trap was working. Samantha had always believed she was untouchable. She thought she could do anything and nobody would ever know. But now she was finally learning what it feels like to be exposed. After she left, I went to my room and waited. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I let her feel the silence. A few hours later, she returned home. She looked worse than I had ever seen her. Her makeup was smeared. Her hair was messy. Her eyes were red. She sat on the couch and said, "They fired me." I didn't respond. I just stared at her. She continued, "They say there are allegations of fraud. They said my identity is linked to gambling and theft. They said they are doing an investigation." I finally spoke. "Good," I said. Samantha's head snapped up. "What do you mean, good?" she asked. I stood up. "I mean it's about time you face consequences," I said. "You thought you could use my name and get away with it." Samantha started crying again. But this time, the tears were not fake. She looked genuinely broken. She said, "Ava, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I felt my heart harden. Because I knew the truth. Samantha wasn't sorry. She was scared. She was scared of losing everything. So I decided to take the next step. I would make sure Samantha's lies were exposed to everyone who mattered to her. I started sending messages to her coworkers. I sent the evidence to her manager again, making sure he had everything. I also started contacting her friends. I didn't want to hurt them, but I knew they deserved to know the truth. I called her best friend, Lily, again. This time, I didn't ask to meet. I sent her the evidence directly. Lily called me immediately, her voice shaking. Ava, what is this? She asked. I replied calmly, it's the truth. She said, I can't believe this. I trusted her. I said, she used your trust to manipulate you. Lily was silent for a moment. Then she said, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't respond. I knew Lily was feeling guilty. I knew she would now avoid Samantha. And that was part of the plan. The next day, Samantha went to the grocery store. She walked down the aisle, and people stared at her. Some whispered. Some avoided her. She looked like a criminal. She looked like a person everyone was afraid of. I watched her from the car. I felt a cold satisfaction. Because this was what I wanted. I wanted her to feel what it feels like to be rejected. I wanted her to feel the fear. That fear she had caused me. Later that night, Samantha confronted me. She said, why are you doing this? Why are you ruining my life? I looked at her and said, because you ruined mine. Samantha's voice shook. You're making this worse, she said. I replied, no. I'm making it real. She stared at me for a long time. Then she whispered, you don't understand. I had no choice. I laughed. No choice. I said. You chose to steal my identity. You chose to gamble with my life. You chose to lie to our family. Samantha's face turned red. She stood up and shouted, you're not my sister anymore. And she walked out. I watched her leave. For the first time, I felt a moment of doubt. Was I doing the right thing? But then I remembered the bank notifications. The stolen money. The lies. The betrayal. And I knew. I was doing the right thing. Because Samantha needed to learn the price of her actions. And now she was finally learning. After Samantha left the house, I sat alone in the living room and felt a strange silence. The kind of silence that comes after a storm. It was quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. My heart was still racing. I knew this was the point where everything would either fall apart or fall into place. Samantha had lost her job. Her friends were avoiding her. Our parents were furious. And the truth was finally out. But I needed the final blow. I needed to make sure there was no way for her to come back. I needed proof so strong that even she couldn't deny it. So I did something I had been planning for weeks. I recorded her confession. It wasn't easy. Samantha was careful. She knew I was watching her. But she didn't know how smart I had become. One night, she came into my room, pretending to be calm. She said, Ava, can we talk? I nodded. She sat on my bed and looked at me with fake innocence. I'm sorry, she said. I really am. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was desperate. I stared at her. I need to know, she continued, if you can forgive me. If you can help me fix this. I stayed quiet. Then she said something that made my skin crawl. You don't know how it started. I didn't mean to steal your identity. I didn't mean to take your money. I just needed to win. I just needed to feel like I was in control. I felt my anger rise again. But I stayed calm. I asked her, do you know how many times you used my name? How many accounts you opened? She hesitated. Then she whispered, more than you can imagine. That was when I started the recording. I hit record on my phone. Then I asked her the question that would destroy her. Did you do this on purpose? Samantha's eyes widened. She looked terrified. But she didn't stop. She looked down and said, "Yes. I did it on purpose." I felt my heart skip a beat. I couldn't believe she admitted it. I continued recording. "Did you use my identity to open gambling accounts?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Did you steal my money?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Did you plan this?" I asked. She hesitated. Then she said, "I planned it. I didn't think anyone would ever find out." I stopped the recording. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. Samantha started crying again. But this time, it wasn't fake. She looked genuinely terrified. She said, "Ava, please. I can fix this. I can pay you back." I shook my head. "It's too late," I said. Then I did the final move. I sent the recording to my parents. I sent it to her boss. I sent it to her friends. I sent it to the police. I didn't even feel guilty. Because Samantha had stolen my identity. She had ruined my life. She had betrayed me. She deserved to be exposed. The next morning, the entire house was tense. My mother was crying. My father was furious. Samantha was silent. She knew the recording had changed everything. She knew she had no way to escape. Later that day, the police arrived. They asked questions. They took statements. They reviewed the evidence. Samantha was taken to the station for questioning. I watched her being led away in handcuffs. And I felt a strange mix of emotions. I felt relief. I felt sadness. I felt anger. But most of all, I felt justice. Because Samantha finally faced the consequences. She couldn't hide anymore. She couldn't lie anymore. She couldn't pretend she was innocent. She was exposed. And the truth had won. That night, I sat in my room and stared at the ceiling. I thought about how easy it was for someone to steal your identity. I thought about how much damage one person can do. And I thought about how important it is to protect yourself. But I also thought about something else. Revenge is not always about hurting someone. Sometimes it's about making sure the truth is heard. And the truth was finally heard. When the police arrived, the house felt like a courtroom. The air was thick with tension, and every sound felt louder than usual. My parents sat in the living room, their faces drained of color. Samantha stood in the hallway, her hands trembling, her eyes wide like she couldn't believe what was happening. I watched everything from the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. I had expected this moment, but I didn't expect it to feel so surreal. The officer asked Samantha to sit down and began asking questions. "Do you understand why you're being questioned?" he asked. Samantha nodded slowly. The officer continued, "We have evidence of identity theft, fraud, and illegal gambling. You use your sister's identity to open accounts and make deposits. Do you have anything to say?" Samantha's voice shook. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to do it. I was addicted. I lost control." The officer looked at her without expression. "Addiction is not a defense for theft," he said. My stomach twisted. I felt a strange mixture of emotions. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for her. Part of me wanted to scream at her. But the truth was, I didn't feel anything. Not anymore. Because Samantha had taken everything from me. The officer asked me to step forward. He asked me to confirm the evidence. I handed him the screenshots, the messages, the bank statements. I gave him the recording. He reviewed everything carefully. Then he said, "This is enough. You will be taken into custody." Samantha's face turned pale. She looked at me like she wanted me to stop it. But I didn't. I couldn't. The officer put handcuffs on her. I watched her being led out of the house. The sight of her in handcuffs was like a final chapter closing. My sister, the girl who used to be the center of our family, was now a criminal. And I had helped make that happen. I felt a strange emptiness. I thought I would feel victorious. But all I felt was a heavy sadness. I had always imagined revenge as something powerful and satisfying. But this was different. This felt like loss. I walked outside and watched the police car drive away. My mother came out and hugged me. Her voice was broken. "Thank you," she whispered. I didn't know what to do. My father stood beside us, his face stern. He looked at me and said, "You did the right thing. She needed to face consequences." I nodded. But inside, I couldn't stop thinking about the future. What would happen to Samantha now? Would she go to jail? Would she ruin her life completely? Would our family ever recover? That night, the house was silent. My parents didn't talk much. They were in shock. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. I kept thinking about the bank notifications, the stolen money, the lies. I kept thinking about the betrayal. And I kept thinking about how easily someone can destroy another person's life. The next day, I received a call from the police station. They wanted more information. They asked about Samantha's gambling activity. They asked about the accounts she opened. They asked about the amount of money she stole. I answered everything. I didn't hold back. Because I knew this was the only way to make sure she would never hurt anyone again. Later, I received a call from Samantha's lawyer. He said she wanted to talk to me. I didn't want to. But I agreed. When I met her at the station, she looked smaller than ever. Her eyes were red, her face pale. She said, "Ava, I'm sorry. I didn't know it would go this far. I was desperate." I looked at her. "I know," I said. Samantha's voice shook. "Can you forgive me?" she asked. I hesitated. Then I said, "I don't know." She looked down. Then she whispered, "I'm scared." I nodded. "I know," I said. But I didn't feel sorry. Because she had made her choice. And now she had to live with it. As I left the station, I felt a heavy weight lift off my shoulders. But I also felt the cost of revenge. I had won. But I had lost something too. A sister. A family. A childhood. And the truth was, I didn't know if I would ever get them back. The weeks after Samantha's arrest were strange and quiet. The house felt empty, even though my parents were still there. It felt like a room without a heart. I kept replaying the day she was taken away in my mind. I couldn't believe it had actually happened. I couldn't believe I had done it. I had always imagined revenge as something powerful and satisfying. But the truth was, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. My mother was still crying most nights. My father stayed quiet, staring at the walls like he was trying to erase the memory. They both looked at me differently now. Not with pride. Not with love. But with something else. Something that felt like fear. They were afraid that I would become like Samantha. That I would turn cold. That I would become someone who seeks revenge instead of forgiveness. And maybe they were right. Because the truth is, revenge changes you. It makes you stronger, but it also makes you colder. It makes you more careful, but it also makes you less trusting. It makes you powerful, but it also makes you lonely. I went back to my job. I went back to my routine. But everything felt different. People at work looked at me with pity. Some looked at me with suspicion. It was like the whole world knew what happened. Even though they didn't. The truth is, once something like this happens, it never fully disappears. It becomes a part of you. A scar you carry forever. One day, I received a letter from Samantha. It was delivered to my house, addressed to me in handwriting I recognized. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, she wrote, "Ava, I'm sorry. I know I ruined your life. I know I stole your identity. I know I hurt you in ways I can never fix. I'm in jail now. I'm scared. I'm alone. I don't know how to live without gambling. I don't know how to live without lying. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I want you to know something. I learned something. I learned what it means to lose everything. I learned what it feels like to be exposed. And I learned that you were right. You were the one who was brave. You were the one who was strong. You were the one who didn't let anyone use you. I hope one day you can move on." Samantha, I read the letter twice. My eyes filled with tears. But I didn't cry. Because the tears weren't for her. They were for me. For the girl who trusted her sister. For the girl who lost her identity. For the girl who had to fight back to survive. That night, I went to the living room and sat down. My parents were asleep. The house was quiet. I stared at the photo on the wall, a family photo from years ago. Samantha was smiling. So was I. Back then, everything seemed perfect. Back then, I didn't know what my sister was capable of. Back then, I didn't know that the person I trusted the most could become my worst enemy. I thought about the revenge. I thought about the consequences. I thought about how my life changed. And I realized something: revenge isn't always about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about protecting yourself. Sometimes it's about standing up for your truth. Sometimes it's about refusing to be a victim. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel victorious. But I felt free. Because the truth was finally out. And Samantha could no longer use my identity. She could no longer ruin my life. She could no longer hide behind my name. And I could finally breathe again. I didn't know what the future held. But I knew one thing: I would never let anyone steal my identity again. I would never let anyone control my life. And I would never forget what happened. Because the truth was the only thing that saved me. And the truth was the only thing that made me strong.